creating a high-risk pool for uninsured folks with pre-existing conditions. That wasn't my idea, it was Senator McCain's. And I supported it, and it got incorporated into our approach. Allowing insurance companies to sell coverage across state lines to add choice and competition. And bring down costs for businesses and consumers. That's an idea that some of you suspect included in this better solutions. That's an idea that was incorporated into our package. And I support it, provided that we do it hand in hand with broader reforms. That protect benefits and protect patients and protect the American people. A number of you have suggested creating pools where self-employed and small businesses could buy insurance. That was a good idea. I embraced it. Some of you supported efforts to provide insurance to children. And let kids remain covered on their parents' insurance until they're 25 or 26. I supported. That's part of our package. I supported a number of other ideas. From incentivizing wellness to creating an affordable catastrophic insurance option for young people, that came from Republicans. Like Mike Enzi and Olympia Snowe in the Senate, and I'm sure from some of you as well. So when you say I ought to be willing to accept Republican ideas on healthcare, let's be clear, I have. Bipartisanship, not for its own sake but to solve problems. That's what our constituents. The American people need from us right now. All of us then have a choice to make. We have to choose whether we're going to be politicians first or partners for progress. whether we're going to put success at the polls ahead of the lasting success we can achieve together. For America. Just think about it for a while. We don't have to put it up for a vote today. Let me close by saying this. I was not elected by Democrats or Republicans, but by the American people. That's especially true because the fastest growing group of Americans are independents. That should tell us. Both something. I'm ready and eager to work with anyone who is willing to proceed in a spirit of goodwill. But understand, if we can't break free from partisan gridlock, if we can't move past a politics of no, if resistance supplants constructive debate, I still have to meet my responsibilities as president. I've got to act for the greater good because that, too, is a commitment that I have made. And that's that, too, is what the American people sent me to Washington to do. So I am optimistic. I know many of you individually. And the irony, I think, of our political climate right now is that compared to other countries, the differences between the two major parties on most issues is not as big as it's represented. But we've gotten caught up in the political game in a way that's just not healthy. It's dividing our country in ways that are preventing us from meeting the challenges of the 21st century. I'm hopeful that the conversation we have today can help reverse that. So thank you very much. Thank you, John. Now I'd like to open it up for questions. Congressman Pence, the President has agreed to take questions and members. would be encouraged to raise your hand while you remain in your seat. The chair will take the prerogative to make the first remarks. Mr. President. Welcome back to the House Republican Conference. President Obama, thank you. Congressman Pence, off microphone. We are pleased to have you return. Inaudible a year ago. House Republicans said then we would make you two promises. Number 1, that most of the people in this room and their families would pray. For you and your beautiful family just about every day for the next 4 years. And I want to assure you we're keeping that promise. President Obama, I appreciate that. Congressman Pence, off microphone number 2, our pledge to you, Mr. President, was that door is always open. And we hope the inaudible of our invitation that we inaudible. Mr. President, several of us in this conference yesterday on the way into Baltimore stopped by the Salvation Army homeless facility here in Baltimore. I met a little boy, an African American boy, in the 8th grade, named David Carter, Jr. When he heard that I would be seeing you today, his eyes lit up like I had never seen. And I told him that if he wrote you a letter I'd give it to you, and I have. But I had a conversation with little David, Jr. And David, sister, his family has been struggling with the economy. On microphone. His dad said words to me, Mr. President, that I'll never forget. About my age, and he said. Congressman, it's not like it was when we were coming up. He said, there's just no jobs. Now, last year about the time you met with us, unemployment was 7.5% in this country. Your administration, and your party in Congress. Told us that we'd have to borrow more than $700 billion to pay for a so-called stimulus bill. It was a piecemeal list of projects and boutique tax cuts. All of which was, we were told, had to be passed or unemployment would go to 8%, as your administration said. Well, unemployment is 10% now, as you well know, Mr. President. Here in Baltimore it's considerably higher. Now, Republicans offered a stimulus bill at the same time. It cost half as much as the Democratic proposal in Congress, and using your economic analyst models. It would have created twice the jobs at half the cost. It essentially was across-the-board tax relief, Mr. President. Now we know you've come to Baltimore today and you've raised this tax credit. Which was last promoted by President Jimmy Carter. But the first question I would pose to you, very respectfully, Mr. President, is would you be willing to consider embracing in the name of little David Carter, Jr. and his dad, in the name of every struggling family in this country, the kind of across the board? Tax relief that Republicans have advocated, that President Kennedy advocated. That President Reagan advocated, and that has always been the means of stimulating broad-based economic growth. President Obama, well, there was a lot packed into that question. First of all, let me say I already promised that I'll be writing back to that young man and his family. And I appreciate you passing on the letter. Member, thank you. President Obama, but let's talk about just the jobs environment generally. You're absolutely right that when I was sworn in, the hope was that unemployment would remain around 8%, or in the 8% range. That was just based on the estimates made by both conservative and liberal economists. Because at that point not all the data had trickled in. We had lost 650,000 jobs in December. I'm assuming you're not faulting my policies for that. We had lost, it turns out, 700,000 jobs in January, the month I was sworn in. I'm assuming it wasn't my administration's policies that accounted for that. We lost another 650,000 jobs the subsequent month, before any of my policies had gone into effect. So I'm assuming that wasn't as a consequence of our policies. That doesn't reflect the failure of the Recovery Act. The point being that what ended up happening was that the job losses from this recession proved to be much more. Severe in the first quarter of last year going into the second quarter of last year than anybody anticipated. So I think we can score political points on the basis of the fact that we underestimated how severe the job losses were going to be. But those job losses took place before any stimulus. Whether it was the ones that you guys have proposed or the ones that we proposed, could have ever taken into effect. Now, that's just the fact, Mike, and I don't think anybody would dispute that. You could not find an economist who would dispute that. Now, at the same time, as I mentioned, most economists Republican and Democrat. Liberal and conservative would say that had it not been for the stimulus package that we passed, things would be much worse. Now, they didn't fill a 7 million hole in the number of people who were unemployed. They probably account for about 2 million. Which means we still have 5 million folks in there that we've still got to deal with. That's a lot of people. The package that we put together at the beginning of the year, the truth is, should have reflected, and I believe reflected, what most of you would say are common sense things. This notion that this was a radical package is just not true. A third of them were tax cuts, and they weren't when you say they were boutique tax cuts. Mike, 95% of working Americans got tax cuts, small businesses got tax cuts. Large businesses got help in terms of their depreciation schedules. I mean, it was a pretty conventional list of tax cuts. A third of it was stabilizing state budgets.